stage as we head into content via the workshops?
So the legislation is very clear that we have to work with government in developing the plan. What we have done at an officer level is we have had some initial discussions with central government officers around that whole concept, whether there is a way that one could jointly work on the Auckland plan in a kind of an ATAP way. I know that just with some initial discussions with the Mayor, that the Mayor is very keen to work with central government, because if we do that, the chances of getting far better alignment and far better outcomes obviously increase. So the Mayor has certainly raised that with central government, and we have taken that a bit further, working with central government and looking how that might work. I know that the Mayor has an upcoming meeting, I think, with the Prime Minister soon, and I think that's one of the things they will be discussing. How can Auckland Council and central government work together on the Auckland plan? That does not mean, I think, and so that would involve content. I doubt that central government would want to engage on every single detail. There are the big issues for them and the big issues for us, and that probably would be the focus. I also think probably I can't see that everybody is going to agree on everything. And that's probably fine if people agree on the big issues and there's a way forward on those, so much better the implementation of the plan. But certainly the Mayor is very keen on doing that and is having some of those initial discussions.
I'm also really interested in your graphic on planning best practice, and you've got a few other cities, or regions, Waikato. So are we going to traverse in the workshops? London Plan has a 5-yearly formal review, but has incremental updates. So is that going to be one of our decisions in terms of not just the length of tenure for the document, but how often we review?
Absolutely. So the first plan in there was made the decision 6 years, but absolutely that's part of the discussion on how often one might want to do it.
And 6 years with no review, right?
6 years of no review.
With no review.
Yeah.
Currently.
Yeah, and that kind of touches on the issue of the digital plan. Because if one does a digital plan, you can keep it far more current. You can also use it for the Auckland plan to be at the level it is and actually build stuff under that. So for people who do want more detail, as we develop more implementation plans or strategies, it can all be linked and somebody can go in and see the whole path all the way down. So it enables you to do a lot more of that. Certainly keep it updated.
So my final question and related point would be that in workshops we will have a chance to look at other cities' practice and see whether there's something that we may take out from that and adopt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ourselves.
And we've had a bit of a look at some of the other plans and what some of the other cities across the world have found in their first, second, third version. And we compared that to some of the issues that we've identified with how the Auckland plan itself can be made better. And it's interesting, it's very similar things. And people are finding the need to focus and prioritise more and report far better. It's generally what all the cities find. But yeah, we will look at those.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher?
Well, Mr. Chairman, all I was going to do was to actually move, or in this case second, and say the pleasure that I have in doing that, because this is, as a critic of the first round with the Auckland plan, this is far more in alignment with what we will be doing with the LTP. It gives us the opportunity to be aspirational, but it also allows for a little more pragmatism. So I really welcome the process that you're outlining. I welcome the process that we can have in terms of working with the CCOs, because to a degree, this is going to be the spine, the transport spine on whatever we can do. So it's important to me that we can find a mechanism that allows for further iterations as we work our way through on the points that were made by the Deputy Chair on the Auckland Transport Alignment. But too often, in local government, it's frustrating because all you're really doing is responding to the statutory requirements and getting into that sort of rhythm of response, whereas this does give us, and it enables us to actually really look much more comprehensively at the future. But as long as we are doing that, firmly of the mind that we're aligning that to the LTP, then I think we're making a really good start. So thank you.
And maybe just a comment on that. So that's a key point. One of the things that the Auckland Plan, I mean, it was a really good plan for what it was. But we're 6 years older and we've learned a few things. And one of the things that sometimes wasn't all that easy to make that connection from the Auckland Plan to the LTP. And so when we look at this new plan, it's going to be really important to keep that in mind, because that means you need to do certain things in the Auckland Plan to take it through in the LTP. Good thing to keep in mind.
Thank you. Councillor Watson?
Thanks. The consultation with this Auckland plan, is that joined up with the long-term plan, or is it two separate processes, two separate batches of consultation?
So the informal consultation in May, June, what we're proposing is that and the LTP is actually the same thing, because the LTP needs to address those same big issues. So the informal consultation would not be on a draft plan, it would probably be on the big issues, and we'll run it together with the LTP as one process. When we get to the formal process for adopting the Auckland Plan, that of course will be before the LTP, so that's kind of where we'll split. We'll do that towards the end of next year, as it's proposed here, and the LTP engagement consultation will only be in 2018. But that is to make sure that, just as Councillor Fletcher said now, that the plan is in place so it can kind of inform and direct the LTP. But the informal, yes, the two processes be run together.
Okay, so the simple observation I'd make and a welcome comment is that, you know, my view is that Auckland is a kind of all planned out, all consulted out, and you know we're going on a series of other consultations. Is that going to be incorporated in your thinking? Because when I look at that, I see another quite, you know, elongated processes of consultation where the public anyway might well feel, well, you know, I've been down this route very many times before. Is that to the fore in your calculations?
Yeah, absolutely. And also remember, we're not starting from scratch on everything. There's been a lot of consultation, and one would take that on board. So absolutely, we're thinking about how to do the shortest but the best engagement that we can. At the same time, next year, there's also the local board plan. So the local boards will have to consult their communities on that. So we're also looking at whether we can actually combine the three processes. The content would be a bit different, but at least the context of the Auckland plan can serve for the local board plans and try and run those in parallel. Because you're right, people do get tired of all of it.
So just both in terms of the pragmatic of not doubling up and also cost, Mr. Chair, I'd be very keen that that approach is explored very thoroughly by the officers.
Thank you. Noted. Councillor Casey.
As one who has cycled with the Auckland Plan into this chamber on many an occasion, I just want to state my emotional attachment to the £4 of paper. I think it was a very well-written document and I've used it heaps. And I don't want to lose its readability in terms of what it covers. It's probably the only, amalgamated document that talks about the environment, people, Māori, development all in one space, and it's really useful for that reason. I've got three kind of questions. I want to hear the word demographic panels issued forth from your lips more than I heard it in the last half hour. One of the reasons we have set up the demographic panels is for council to better communicate with diverse groups. And so where are they on your timeline so that they assist us with both long-term plan and the Auckland plan? So you can answer them all at the end, or just some of them are rhetorical. When the Rainbow Communities panel and the Seniors panel did review the Auckland plan as they have done, it was telling to note there was only one sentence in there about LGBTI. And there was a complete lack of positive ageing images and any mention of, you know, the great place Auckland is for older people. So I'm hoping that with the use of the demographic panels, we will rectify the gaps that we have with regard to, for example, refugees and migrants. Also, we do a power of good there. So talk to the panels, use their skills, and this will be an even better document. So I'd like to see the word inclusive. You know, I don't know where these new best planning practice bits came from. Be responsive, be something. Be inclusive would be really good. And being inclusive means showing Auckland at its finest, that we are a hugely diverse community, and that includes graphically and in the words that you write. That was my first point. The second one was about the reason I love it is the social chapter, which is about 35 pages long, covers all the issues that Auckland has to deal with. And again, I wouldn't like to see those disappear because they're too hard. And we do talk about public health, we talk about gambling, alcohol, maybe not in great depth, but they're in there, and I've used them on many, many occasions just because they're recognised as issues for Auckland. Maybe not the solutions. So tying the words up with solutions might mean that you drop a lot of stuff out, and I wouldn't like to see that happen. And my last one was a question really about the Māori plan, and I am very unclear about how we marry up the great work that the Independent Māori Statutory Board has done in the Māori plan with our mana whenua obligations and the existing Auckland plan and what's in there already. Can you tell me how all that's how are you going to do that?
To be honest, at this stage, I have no idea.
At least you're honest.
Other than we have to do that, we have to work through all of that. What the solution is and exactly how we do it, I don't know yet.
How are you going to work out the solution to it then, Jack?
Sit down and have a good think.
Early days, and it's an acknowledgement of we don't know the exact course, but we'll all be navigating it. So, and thank you. I think Councillor Casey, I think the earlier points you made, I think they were noted. I noticed them being scribed, so they have been taken into account as well. Thank you,
So,
Councillor Casey.
you will put the demographic panels into your timeline for use. Start to.
Yeah. We have to engage with everybody.
Yep.
And the panels are just a convenient way to engage with particular sectors of society. So
No, they're not. They're here to tell us how to do it better. That's what I'm suggesting you do. You go to them and say, how can we do this better?
Yep. What I mean by what I said was, it makes sense for us to use them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we will, and we'll just include them throughout the whole.
Thank you. Councillor Quacks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And like others, I think I sort of welcome the pragmatic attitude that's being taken here. I just want to, one of the things that I and probably and a number of other councillors were concerned about during the development of the last plan and going forward from that seemed to be not a great deal of emphasis placed on one of the directives from Section 79 of the Act, which was that Section 79(4)(c) provide evidential base to support the decision-making for Auckland, including evidence of trends, opportunities and constraints within Auckland. And I am, some of us on a couple of occasions bemoaned the fact that there wasn't enough cognizance placed on evidence. So can you assure me that we will be robust in our seeking evidence for some of those decisions and some of those directives that we put within the refreshed plan?
Jacques.
Yeah, absolutely. To the extent possible, of course. We can gather evidence and spend money on finding evidence for the next 10 years. But there's been a lot more evidence developed and gathered over the past 6 years since the first 5 years, since the first Auckland plan has been done, for a whole range of other things that the council has done. We have also in the last 2 or 3 months, actually done some more work on that to make sure that we have the evidence and what evidence do we need and where are we not sure. So absolutely,
Yeah.
as best as we can.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, because things like commercial land, for example, there's a real shortage of commercial land. I don't know if you've seen the latest report on how much commercial land is available, Jacques, but it is a worrying trend how little land is available for commercial use in Auckland, and what is left will be very high priced, or will force people to go elsewhere for their business. And so it's really important that, we do take all those evidential trends into account.
Yeah.